Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I got tagged for the Tag de France by uh, Book Zealots, and I will include the link to their video because it's a mother-son collaboration for their BookTube channel. But I will add the link to their video down below, as well as the link to the video for the originator of this book tag, which is Genre Books 23. And I have not yet watched his video. He's new to me, so I look forward to discovering more about his channel. But to go on with the actual tag, there are 10 questions. Well, actually, technically, it's 9 questions. The 10th is tag others. So, I will try to get the French pronunciation as best I can, but my tendency is to try to go more in a Spanish leaning versus a French. So, the pronunciation might well be quite a bit off. Anyway, the first prompt is Le Grand Depart, and that is the actual prompt in English is a memorable preface, introduction, or opening line. And I think that the one that I have is going to be kind of obvious. And this is the one from, let me get to the right page. Forgot how. Okay, so this, of course, is the one from Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities. So, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity, it was a season of light, it was a season of darkness, it was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. And actually, the second paragraph, which never gets mentioned, isn't bad either. There was a king with a large jaw and a queen with a plain face on the throne of England. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a fair face on the throne of France. In both countries it was clearer than crystal to the lords of the state, preserves of loaves and fishes, that things in general were settled forever. So, yeah, it actually is a really good start, not only for the first paragraph / sentence, but the second paragraph is engaging in its own way. So, Tale of Two Cities is kind of an obvious one. I mean, I know that A Christmas Carol isn't bad either for its beginning, because you have, I believe it begins with Marley is dead, dead as a doornail. If I remember correctly, there's great expectations. I thought that I had Christmas Carol and there it is. Christmas Carol's toward the end. Yeah, Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register in his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. I mean, that's a pretty good beginning, too. So you gotta give Dickens credit. He knew how to start off a book. I'll peek at Oliver Twist and see if that was just as nice of a start. Because I started Oliver Twist, but I never really got very far in. This is one that I need to continue. Let's see, it doesn't look like Oliver Twist might have the same kind of... Yeah, Oliver Twist doesn't seem to have the same kind of engaging start. I just want to look. I also have in here Great Expectations. I haven't read that one. You remember the little there was illustrated classics for kids? I think that was the last time I read Great Expectations. Yeah, I mean that's not Great Expectations has a pretty good start, but it's nothing like Tale of Two Cities or Christmas Carol. Christmas Carol. It's not bad by any means, but not ones that just sort of grab your attention the way Christmas Carol and Tale of Two Cities does, or does do anyway. And my Dickens collection has two: A Tale of Two Cities and A Christmas Carol, which have a memorable opening line, or in this case, a couple paragraphs. All right, so oh gosh, I'm not going to pronounce this well. Maillot Vert, a book under 150 pages. So this is going to maybe seem like cheating because let me just move this out of the way. Okay. Because this actually has several books in here, so I chose unfinished ones included, but I chose one of the books in here, not an unfinished one, but it is less than 150 pages by itself. So it is page 81 to 160. So I mean it's approximately 80 pages. Right? Yeah. So it's rather short, but Lady Susan by Jane Austen. It's a little novella. I absolutely love Lady Susan. Not her, well, I mean, she is amazingly despicable. She is, wonderfully awful. This is an epistolary novella, and Austen wrote, this is part of her juvenilia. And this was although it's quite different in style from her great novels, she makes very good use of the epistolary style to draw the characters very vividly, especially the titular character, Lady Susan, who is, like I said, truly awful. If you have not read Lady Susan, or if you have not actually read Austen in general, I would say Lady Susan is a good place to start. It's not, like I said, necessarily representative of her style completely, of her great novels, insofar as she doesn't write epistolary novels later, but it does include her wit and her, just her sort of wry humor that kind of, she's poking fun at people, and their, idiosyncrasies, eccentricities, whatever. Just a little bit of her humor's always kind of there under the surface. So yeah, I recommend Lady Susan. That is my book under 150 pages. King of the Mountain, a book that you persevered with and are glad that you did. This one was a hard one for me because I usually, if I'm glad that I picked a book, I don't necessarily feel like it's terribly hard to make it through. I'm going to tentatively choose a Kindle book that I ended up reading last year. I think it was in August. It was Gentlemen of Uncertain Fortune by Rory Muir. It's not necessarily a long book, but I mean, that doesn't really seem like it's supposed to be a long book, just when you persevered with. This book was a little hard to get through insofar as the style was a bit plodding at times, but I really enjoyed certain aspects of the way certain aspects of this story that would come out. Certain people would come through with their characters, certain young men of the era would come through with their characters quite strongly because of letters that existed about them. I ended up actually picking up a book about one of the young men mentioned. I think he was either in the Navy or the Army, and they mentioned his adventures with his wife that sounded like they were very interesting. And there was actually, it was either an autobiography written by him or a biography written by her that exists. So I did end up picking up something about them. So that was something I pulled out of there. So there were aspects of the book that I really enjoyed, but it was a little bit hard to push through at times. If you want to go with size of book, I mean, I guess you could say George Washington by what's his name? I didn't prepare for this. He wrote a book on Alexander Hamilton as well. Ron Chernow. So that was quite a long book, and I guess it takes some perseverance to finish that because I believe it's over 700 pages, maybe even over 800, at least in the Kindle form. So, I mean, that book I really did get a lot out of. So, even though I didn't necessarily feel like I was persevering through it, like as in like forcing myself through it, I guess that was just because it is a mountain of a book, I guess. This one was a hard question for me. Anyway, moving on to the next one, which is a bit easier. Maillot Jaune? Anyway, a book where yellow is prominent. So for that one, this is a very yellow book. So this is Diane Freeman's A Fiancé's Guide to First Wives and Murder. So this is part of the Countess of Harley mysteries. And these actually are pretty good for a historical mystery. Usually I'm not a huge fan of historical fiction, but she captures the feel of the era pretty well. It's a light read. I can usually make it through one of these in a day. I actually have a couple I haven't read yet because I'm saving them for when I can't focus or feel particularly unwell, so that way I can have kind of a reward. So that's what I save these for. But I have finished this one, and I did finish the next one in the series as well. I believe I have 2 more. And she wasn't going to finish, like she wasn't going to continue with the series. After a certain point, thought she was going to be done. But then she surprised me with another release fairly recently. Actually, the Kindle just came through. I'm hoping that the physical book will come down in price because I have been trying to get all of these in physical form. So yeah, it's just a nice, easy read. Nothing too taxing, but I feel like it's a step above some of the... I'm a bit of a snob. I don't particularly like the cozy mysteries the way they are now. I know Agatha Christie was originally considered a cozy mystery, but it seems like it kind of has changed the definition because I wouldn't lump her work in the same category as some of the cozy mysteries that are being written now that have like the recipes in the back. You know, they're about like knitting groups or, you know, they kind of have a theme and they tend to be a bit fluffy. This I consider to be less fluffy than that. Because I don't care for the normal cozy mystery. This gives more of a feel. It's not quite as advanced, for lack of a better term, than like an Agatha Christie, which I feel like there's a little bit more going on there. But I feel like this is between an Agatha Christie and a cozy mystery, although it's closer in my mind to maybe an Agatha Christie, but I wouldn't consider this a cozy mystery in the definition of today, in my opinion. Lantern Rogue? Anyway, a book that you relate to. So I'm not really sure what this means. So I'm going to answer this the best I can. I chose for this the Silmarillion. I've always heard about how good this was. The first time I tried to read this, I found it to be very dry, so I never continued. I'm finding it a lot easier now. You can see that I'm halfway through. I think getting into reading Norse mythology or mythology in general really helped me put me into the mindset of, oh, okay, this is how to read the Silmarillion. It's not your traditional story format. So that's really helped. But I would consider perhaps that I am late to this party for someone who likes classic literature. Because I do consider this a classic literature. Tolkien had a huge influence on the landscape of fiction literature. He really created the fantasy genre. You can tell if you read other authors that they are influenced by Tolkien. You can see it in I believe they're called Death Eaters for Harry Potter. And then you can also tell, just honestly, if you read the first book of Sword of Shannara, it about slaps you in the face how strongly Terry Brooks is influenced by Tolkien. And I feel like in a lot of fantasy, you can see at different degrees Tolkien's influence on the genre, just because he really was very influential in creating the genre. So I can't believe it's really taken me this long to really get into reading this, and I have Baron Luthien and a bunch of other ones of his that I now intend to get to. So yeah, bit late to the party for this one. Oh, also studying early medieval history, Anglo-Saxon England, it has really helped with my appreciation of Silmarillion as well, because I can see the Viking influence, I can see the Norse influence, I can see some of the Anglo-Saxon influence, especially with some of the ruins. Anyway. So it's really cool studying history, studying mythology, how much it's led me to appreciate more the Silmarillion. Let's see. Okay. Hors catégorie. I don't know how to say that. Anyway, what's the hardest book that you've read or failed to read? So, let's see. That's number 6. I felt like I had covered this. Okay. So, first of all, I'm going to choose what was the hardest book that you failed to read. So I have 2 for this one. The first one, I keep trying, and I hope to finish it eventually, is Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English People. Maybe it's this translation, but I just am having trouble making it sink in. I think that my Kindle edition is a different translation, so maybe I'll try that. Or maybe I'll start annotating in here and see if that helps me get a little bit more out of it. So I might restart it, because I really like Bede. I mean, I have Bede up there, Bede here, but I really am a huge Bede fan. I've really enjoyed studying him and his influence on, well, first of all, him as a historian, and then I've got his works that he wrote on different books of the Bible, and just he keeps popping up in my studies of early medieval literature, for lack of a better term, because he pops up in the Lindisfarne Gospels. I just keep seeing popping up everywhere. So I really do want to read this because we do get a lot of what we know of that era from Bede. So I think I'll start annotating in here and start from the beginning. That'll probably help. The other one, I can't tell you how many times I've tried to read this book. I've started it and then I always stall. This is Never Bet Against Occam. Mast cell activation disease and the modern epidemic of chronic illness and medical complexity. It's by Lawrence B. Afrin, MD. I actually have mast cell activation disease. It's one of my chronic conditions. It's also known as mast cell activation syndrome, so it's either MCAD or MCAS. So this is really a bunch of case studies. Again, maybe annotating in here will help because I just stall usually after the third or fourth chapter. I just don't get very far in, and it's a shame because I really want to read this and get whatever I can out of this, but I just stall every time. So I think that just like with Bede, maybe I need to annotate and maybe that will help. Because I've started annotating again fairly recently. I used to do it a lot in college, but I kind of got out of it when I went to reading fiction more. But now that since getting sick, I've been almost primarily reading nonfiction. I find myself wanting to highlight and annotate again. So I think that I'll start doing that for Never Bet Against Occam and the Ecclesiastical History of the English People and see if that helps me get more out of it. Now, one that I finished, but was really the hardest book that I've read, was Intelligence Activities in Ancient Rome. Trust in the Gods, but verify. This is just a really dense book. And at points, it can be rather dry. Again, I do believe annotation in here more might have helped me. But, yeah, this is just, it's got a lot going on. It's very technical at times. It was a good book to read. It's one of those books that you really do have to catch on sale because it's expensive. It's one of those ones that I could see maybe having been used in a college course. But, yeah, this was a really dense book and it was really hard to make it through to the end. But I really wanted to, and so I did. But this was a rough one towards the end. So, Endurance, your favorite series. So I have a couple here, and some of them might seem like cheating. A couple of them might seem like cheating, just because mystery series, they can kind of be read out of order a lot of times. Well, not so much with the first one. The first one here is the Countess of Harley mysteries. So they do need to be in a certain order because there's a storyline running through. It starts with Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Murder, and this one here is quite a bit down the line. I can't remember how many come in front of it because the rest are in my room. But, so this is a series that is actually a series that has to be read in order to get the most out of it. So this is one that I really enjoy. I tried to grab books that were like, it wasn't just two books, so like I didn't grab the Eight Cousins Rose and Bloom duo because that's only two books. Now, I'm not sure, this one barely counts because it's only 3 books, but I decided to bring it anyway. This is the first book in the Thrawn trilogy, and I just love this. This is Timothy Zahn. The first book is Heir to the Empire. This is the 20th anniversary edition. So he has notes alongside where he talks about what was kind of going through his mind when he was writing this, which is kind of cool. He has his own annotating in here. This is one that I look forward to reading this edition again. And he also has notes at the beginning where he talks about how he consulted with Lucas and how he wanted to make sure that things stayed in the timeline, and how he's pretty much given a free rein as long as he didn't do prequel stuff. And so Lucas pretty much rubber stamped everything else, which is why Star Wars fans are really peeved. We're really peeved that Disney just was like hand waved all our EU extended universe Star Wars stuff that's been around since the movies came out, starting with Splinter in the Mind's Eye, which is not the best, granted, but this extended universe has been around for literally decades. Yeah, I'm having a problem with pronunciation apparently. And so fans have really been invested in this universe the way that it's been built, because it's been built upon, each book is built upon the next. In fact, for example, there's quite a few books that have this, the Star Wars novels timeline. Now, I noticed it more in some of the books that I stupidly got rid of, because I had to collect again some of my favorite ones, but not all the books now have it, but it used to be in quite a few more of the books that I used to have. But this timeline that says when all the books came, a lot of timeline that I had came before the prequels came out. So, but this one is 20th anniversary, so it does have the prequels related books in here. So it'll have things related to Darth Maul and stuff, which didn't exist in my original copies of different books. But this is the 20th anniversary, so this would have that in the later edition of the same story. Take another drink. And this is the one that I kind of feel like it maybe it's a bit cheating, but I didn't feel right not adding it at all. This is, I'm just saying the Poirot mysteries because, I mean, it is a series of books, and Poirot will refer to other mysteries that occurred previous, even though you can read them out of order and still be fine. You just get a bit more out of it if you've read the previous books, because Poirot or other characters have been known to refer back to different mysteries that have occurred. But the first in the Poirot mysteries, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. That's just my representative, but I think I've read pretty much, if I haven't read all of Poirot's mysteries, I've read pretty much close to all of them, because I started reading Agatha Christie when I was around 10. My first one was Hercule Poirot's Christmas. It has another title. I don't have my little cheat book here. I think it's like Holiday for Murder or something like that. I actually have that title versus the one that I first read, which was Hercule Poirot's Christmas, which was a gift from my grandmother. But yeah, I think A Holiday for Murder might be the other title. But like I said, I don't have my Checkerbeat checklist for Agatha Christie with me. And my final one for endurance is another Timothy Zahn. I was introduced to Timothy Zahn's works through Star Wars, and then I found a single original novel of his, which was Angel Mass. After that, I found one of my favorite series that I've read. I've read this multiple times. It is another Timothy Zahn, but it is the Quadrail series. And the first one is Night Train to Rigel. Timothy Zahn has an extraordinary gift for world building, but not in a very dry. Some authors come off very dry when they're doing this. They can be very technical if they're sci-fi, or be almost meandering if they're fantasy. Timothy Zahn really does write in a way that I consider to be sci-fi fantasy, because he's definitely in a sci-fi type of world insofar as there's technology and more like you would consider like maybe alien races versus like elves and dwarves and things like that. But the fantasy elements, it's kind of in the way that Star Wars is fantasy versus Star Trek being sci-fi, where there's kind of more of a, I would say like a focus on character, and it's more of a character focused storytelling, whereas I've noticed that sci-fi can be more, or seems to be more, of a plot technology focused storyline. But I think Timothy Zahn treads that really fine line between the two quite well. But I think his world building is very good. His character building, I feel like, is excellent. Yeah, I always enjoy reading his work. I haven't read all of his work. I mean, I've read all the Quadrail series. I've read them multiple times, and it is one of my favorite series. There are quite a few books of his, unfortunately, that I haven't read because his books can be, they can be exciting at times, and I am not physically able to handle that in the way I used to, which is unfortunate, just because of my issues with my fight or flight response. But yeah, those are my series. Champs-Élysées, I don't know if that's pronounced right. That isn't pronounced right. Your favorite Paris novel. This was hard because I don't read a ton about France. So I decided on two. One is, I don't know where I put it, Tale of Two Cities by Dickens, and I don't know, there it is. So Tale of Two Cities is one, I guess, and then the other one is Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. And I know it doesn't start in Paris, but a good portion of the story does occur in Paris after, I think it ends up in Paris once you start in the second part. So I don't think any of Fantine's part is in Paris. I think it's not till the book goes into the section called Cosette that we end up going to Paris. So in this large unabridged version of Les Mis, that would take me to page 305, but this book is 1,400 some pages, so that's, still a majority of the book is in Paris. This is my first time reading the unabridged version, but I really loved the abridged version when I was in high school. So once I'm in the main story, I really enjoy it. I can't remember completely what was in the version that I read versus what is in this version, so I don't know how much of the character stuff that I'm enjoying, what was in the one I read before, or is a part of the unabridged rather than the abridged. So, yeah, those are my two for France. Now, 9, Lance Armstrong, have you ever cheated to get to the finish quicker? I really can't think of a book that I've done that for because I don't like to have my ending spoiled. I mean, that sounds weird actually saying that, considering the fact that I have purposely ruined the Hunger Games for myself in the hopes that I will eventually be able to read it in spite of fight or flight issues, just because then there's no huge surprises. But in spite of that, it's not like I've cheated to try to get to the end quicker. It's more of in the hopes that I can actually be able to read it at all. But no, that's just not something I've ever really done. And then I'll go ahead and tag some others from BookTube. It'll be down in the description below. So yeah, I kind of feel like I was all over the place, but thanks so much for tagging me. And I was tagged by Book Zealots, and I actually need to. I'm not quite sure. I know that they say their names all the time on there, but I can never remember when I'm not watching. Hold on, it is. I think the channel says it. I think the son is Prometheus, but I can't remember if the mom ever says her name. But I'm pretty sure the son is Prometheus. I don't. Maybe she's Book Zealots, and I know he's Prometheus. So, anyway, the channel is Book Zealots. Thank you very much for the tag. And like I said, anyone that I tag will be tagged in the description below. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me for this discombobulated video, and I will see you next time. God bless. Bye.